Hello, everybody. Like she said, I'm Charlie Krueger, and I've spoken here, and this is my third time now, and I definitely appreciate it. Give an opportunity to speak with people of such like-mindedness. It's been a real honor for sure. It's quite entertaining. My spiritual journey of awareness began not too far from here over on Goldenrod, an apartment that I picked up. I was once part of the Space Shuttle program, which moved me over from San Diego. There's a longer story before that, but I was in San Diego with the military for a while, and then I just did government contractor work. And then I came here to Florida to work on the Space Shuttle program, and as that ended, then I ended up working for Siemens, and which really helped my spiritual journey begin and go over the top for the most part, where I was in an airplane seat most of the time. And so a lot of audible books went through these years, whether I was awake or not, type of thing. Subconsciousness is pretty powerful, and how we can learn and heal too. It's very powerful if you allow your dreams to do such a thing for you. Any which way. Currently I'm still at the Space Center, and I'm working on the Orion program, or Artemis program. It's a Lockheed Martin has a contract, and I work for a subcontractor of them. We provide the labor part of it. And my specific job is I'm electrical by nature, and we test the spaceship as it's being built. So it's pretty fun and exciting in that aspect, and also pretty unique to work on the physical side of it, the science side of it, but then also be very aware of the spiritual side of it too. And it's pretty neat to be around such smart people, because I get to challenge them with my ideas, and they get to challenge me back, so it can be quite entertaining. No matter what, my topic for today is, I'm going to talk about self-awareness with you all. I'm sure you've all heard the term many times over, and I remember the first time I heard it, and what was the introduction for me? It was through yoga, and a yoga teacher reached out, and she said that I'm not my hand. More or less, the soul within me is the energy that provides it, its momentum. And with that, I guess it went over my head, through my head, whatever the case is, but I continued to think on that for a while. And when you really get in deep on it, the soul that resides within our living body is, well, I'm going to back up just a little bit, because I want to say the words. I started a side business, and it's called Spiritual Life Coaching, and Symbiotic Healing Connections is the name of my business. And the symbiotic relationship that we have with everything is so paramount to understand for self-healing, and through self-awareness. When we get back into what I first started with, I'm not my hand, right? I can pick up a book with it, and I can toss it to you, or whatever the case is. I could go through every part of that, of my body, and realize that I'm not that. I'm just the energy that provides it. So along this conversation, we'll come to the physical mind, and for the most part, its main job is to generate thoughts, correct? I mean, how many of you had since you got here this morning? How many of you had since I started talking? Who's to say what the brain is going to generate from 1 minute to the next, 1 second to the next? And so, if I'm not my hand, or my foot, or my toes, or anything like that, and I'm not my mind, what am I to my mind? Its best belief, therapeutically, spiritually, is to realize that you're the witness to its thoughts. Now, that is so easily to understand, but the concept of it runs really deep and puts you back into the driver's seat if you allow it to. That's probably the most power you could ever really want in a lifetime. Wait a minute, I'm the witness to my thoughts. So you actually get to make your choices that you want the best reaction out of. And it's easy at this point to just look at it from that perspective, but you have to accept that a lot of the choices you make right now are based on preconditioning, based on who your parents were, who your coaches were, teachers, pets, environment, whatever the case is. you have been taught in a matter of ways how to react to things naturally, and then just allow your brain to have its fun with you. There's a lot more going on, but when you think of, there's many different aspects of the mind in different civilizations and stuff. The Mayans have a word, it's a Mexican or Spanish word, mitote, which is directly transcribed as like 1,000 voices talking at once. That kind of makes sense, huh? Or yoga terms, they love to call it the monkey mind. And so, while there's this barrage of thoughts always going on, we get to just react appropriately or inappropriately, whatever the case might be, triggers and stuff like that. Well, we'll use an example. Maybe I'm hungry and I'm sitting in my apartment and I have the urge for, something to eat. Maybe it's chicken salad or something along those lines. I look through my refrigerator and I realize that I don't have anything. And so I'll go across the street to the store and get the ingredients that I want. Well, it just so happens this store, to get to it, I have to cross a very busy road. And so here I am with a proposal of many ideas. Do I just run across the street and risk it? Maybe push the button to get a green light to walk across it? Or maybe just go home and choose something else to eat. The choice is the most important part of it all. The goal is to make a choice that is going to serve you. But you have to be aware of the precursors, the learned lessons that you maybe not have learned, or here's an opportunity to learn it again. How does this affect us when you make a choice that upsets somebody else? In turn will eventually upset you in one way or another too. And it can affect you on a multiple level, because you thinking you're doing something out of your normal nature upsets someone else. And then you start feeling bad about it, and then you allow that thought every time after every time to beat you up with it, all based from one scenario of them taking it incorrectly. But that's based on their preconditioning also, right? Well, this is where, when we get older, we have a lot of soul scars, or samskaras. It's the Sanskrit word for it. These are the internal wounds that we take on. Maybe it was the first time your hand was slapped by your parents for doing something bad. Might have been your first injustice, like you thought you were doing something really good. And so, without the right parenting, or whatever the case is, you were never really taught to heal that emotional wound. Like, they didn't sit you down and say, okay, that's okay, the reason I smacked your hand, I want to grab your attention, it's out of love, I'm doing this, let's talk about what's really going on, type of thing. If you didn't have that, then what'll happen, and this is just one of those type of scars, every time something that reminds you of it, maybe you were sitting in a comfortable chair, so you no longer want to sit in comfortable chairs. As time goes by, you allow that scar to dig deeper and deeper. And it can go into your relationship problems and issues where maybe it was on a phone that someone broke up with you, and you don't even want to attach yourself to phones anymore. Or you get instantly mad once the phone rings, or sad or depressed or whatever. The rain might have been raining that day, so every time it rains, it puts you in a bad mood, Well, start to learn to embrace your triggers, whatever they are, because that is your soul's way of telling you what you have to work on right now. Not put it away, or think that it's just, well, it's not going to go away until you properly deal with it. I'm sure all of you have worked through some pretty tough times, and maybe still are working through some. There's a number that still tap on my door every once in a while, but it's overall just kind of fun to say, look, hey, there you are. All right, let's talk about this for a moment. For me, I really like astrology, and so it happens to be new moons are probably my more difficult times. I don't sleep much during those weeks because there's a lot of stuff to think about and work through or whatever. I think through awareness that really helps bring it on more. I'll go to work and say, man, new moon energy, I've been up since 2 a.m. And they're all, what are you talking about? Man, But I've really learned to embrace that part of it, because that's ultimately what I've termed the moon as our big spoon. It's here to stir up our emotions. And new moon, full moon, moon in this, moon in that, it's quite entertaining if you go through a day that's really rough, and then if you know your astrology chart, then you can read and say, oh, that's what that is. And it'll allow you then to what? Just look at it? No. This is when you go back in time. Find out what memory started all of this for you. It could have been something that happened yesterday, or it could have been something that happened 20 years ago, or whatever the case is. And it's thought to take your memories, once you have one of these triggers, and it's the longer, deeper ones that tend to come up the most and affect you the most. And so eventually, through the many triggers that could affect this one, go back in time in your mental thoughts and be the adult that child needed then, now. And start your healing process to get through this. Now, being the witness is a really crucial statement to make. For us to be spiritually in line with the rest of the collective consciousness, or the main source, God, it's crucial that you really embrace your witness characteristics. It's you understanding yourself through self-awareness and knowing that I'm not the thoughts that my mind generates. I'm just wounded by those. Sometimes an over-goodness can be a curse. You're always caught up in the clouds and you can't quite come down because it's a little bit too glossy-eyed. It's not quite reality. But I promise you that that's probably the better side of the fence to be on, as opposed to the many things that can come from anxiety, depression, whatever fear you want to label it with. And we happen to run by a society that's largely run by fears. Look at politics. Like, how many fears did they throw at us to get their way? And commercials stream through you. Musicians singing their hearts out, reminding you of your triggers, whatever the case is. This is where it's another crucial statement to understand that everything external to us is impersonal. It's not meant for anything, but it's the samskaras, the soul wounds inside your mind that make them personal. And when you think about it, here's where another aspect of astrology that I like about it. It's the understanding that as our planet that we're born on goes through the cosmos, and the push and pull attraction that takes place between the sun and us, all the planets, science can prove our sun has a wobble to it. Why does it have a wobble as massive as it is? And that's proven by our North Star changes every gazillion years. Just a little bit because of its wobble. Well, the sun has a little bit of a wobble on it because of the pull of all the planets hanging on it, and asteroids and comets and all that kind of stuff gives it a little bit. I mean, that's something that's beyond our measurements capability. But the thought is astrology is the study of that push and pull. And I tell you what, you have the moon as a great example. Science can prove that during full and new moons, the water on our planet is quite affected. Well, each one of us on average have about the same percentage of water, roughly 75%, or just imagine like 6 gallons of water. It's going to have a little bit of effect on us. So there's that big spoon stirring up our emotions. But then that's all that they really are. It's like a wave in the ocean. It just kind of rolls through. Stand in the ocean, sit there and bob. It just goes right by you. And you allowed it, right? Yep, because it's all it is. It's just energy and time. And so as these triggers come upon you, this is where it gets trickier and trickier. We use electromagnetic fields and forces to restart the heart, right? That's because that's what we're working off of. And the heart center is an amazing EMF generator, electromagnetic force. I think that extends out like 3 or 4 feet. So imagine if you're within that proximity to someone that's really bitter or really happy, how much does that affect you? The feelers supposedly go out even further, you know, like I think at a point after a period of time we're all connected in this room through our energies. It allows us to either become really close friends or, I don't know, start arguing in one way or another. But these are the external forces that really create our triggers. It could be a tree, it could be a dog walking by, it could be so many number of things that trigger something in you. There was a story I remember is a Buddhist, a master was you know, in his courtyard, and he has a guy underneath him training for years and years, and he noticed something about him one day that was quite particular. He was just walking through the courtyard and he saw his trainee and he's looking over and he looked at a tree and then he stopped and then he just kept on going. And so he ended up asking him, what was that all about? I watched you walk through the courtyard, you stopped and looked at that tree and then you just kept on going. And he's all, well, that was a moment I had for sure, but I realized that it's just a tree. And what it used to bring up for him before he started finding his inner healing abilities was it reminded him of, who's to say what it is. The way I was raised, it might have been the stick that my father brought in to beat me with, or whatever the case is. So you get to have fun with these things that could be so torturous for you, but then realize, you know, the person that committed these acts upon you, whether it was malicious or not, was just them working out their own karma, and something had brushed them wrong, and then they took it on people before they got a chance to heal within themselves. That's why for sure we have to all cut each other a little bit of slack as we go through life, because you don't know what the next person is going through or has been through and what they're working through. So just kind of let it be. And you know, from an empathic perspective, once you have a bad feeling and this energy is coming at you, recognize it, address it. Wait a minute, this isn't mine. And you can send it back to them or just send it away from you, whatever the case is, and say, well, why did that sort of bother me? That's the only reason that it did bother you is because you're harboring something that just simply reminded you of it. And so, kind of like that tree analogy, here's the judgment part of life, and I'm sure all of you walk through forests or in places where there's plenty of trees or whatever the case is. Maybe it's a tree farm, I don't know, but how many of you judge the trees? Like, this one's bigger than this one's leaning this way, this one's got apples, this one's got pears. No, you kind of let the trees be too, don't you? Yeah. So with that, you can just begin to address the external triggers and bring them inward if it's necessary. And right then and there, it's showing you what you need to work on. Sometimes you do need to talk with somebody about things, but we're all designed to be our own gurus or our own healers. And that's where it really starts to begin. You can get inspiration from places like this, but it's not until you face the reflection in the mirror and really realize that when you look in the mirror, your reflection is as close to an image of God as anyone else's on this planet or beyond, whatever beyond might be for any of us. And in a sense, it takes a long time. I know a lot of this stuff, it makes complete sense, and it might be lighting a few light bulbs, but it's easy to understand. But the application of it and the continuous practice of self-healing and learning newer and newer tools. And what is a new tool for me? It's whatever makes sense to you. One of my favorite spiritual teachers was given a lecture once, and he told me of the story, well, the world of this story. And he went through and kept catching the attention of this one woman in the audience. And she was wearing this really decorative, ornate hat that had berries and birds and all kinds of stuff on it. Just couldn't help but get her attention. And I'm sitting there talking about some really deep subjects. And she's emphatically nodding her head, and she's just like going with it. And he goes, well, I hope to talk to her, you know, in his own thoughts. Well, in group settings like that, they will eventually, as it breaks down, then people will get in their groups and talk. And sure enough, this woman eventually started walking up to him to get an idea of what anything's going on. And she's like running up to him in a sense, and he's all, hello. And she's all, thank you so much. My head thinks just like this, and thank you for help bringing the voice to it. And he's all, what would get you to thinking on this level? And she's like, I crochet. So, what you meditate on is what you meditate on. It could be baseball, but when you find yourself in a place of mind that you aren't worried about anything else, that's your tool. Find another tool. There's so many of them. And it'll get to the point where this saying is, suffering is grace to those on the path. Because you'll be looking forward to the next opportunity that you'll have a gut ache about something. You get, okay, this is what I get to work on now. And then eventually this thing that had been bothering you forever becomes your best friend. Because you know you don't have to face that again. We're good friends now. Maybe it's a patch on your jacket or a bulletproof vest, however you want to view it as. That's your chance to have it be part of your armor and simply allow it not to affect you in a way that would cause you any suffering or lash out and give it to somebody else. Which is another thing to talk about, energy transference. Say I'm in great spirits and someone comes up to me, near me, and they're just voicing off all kinds of complaints. It's nothing to do with me and they know it too, but that energy transference, and then all of a sudden, why am I in a bad mood? What's going on here? And it's pretty easy to do. So be aware of those moments too. And also be aware that it's just like standing in the ocean as a wave goes through you. That time is going to pass pretty quickly, especially if you've done some inner work and you have tools to throw at it, which is where meditation comes in. Why do we meditate? Well, we meditate to learn to control our thoughts, to sit in stillness, whatever it means for you. The idea of having your eyes closed and chanting a mantra purposely can be very powerful for two reasons. Say you choose a simple mantra, Ram, which is Sanskrit word for God. You're just saying God over and over and over again. What purity can you get from that, right? And if you're doing it in a situation that there are no external triggers, then it will allow you to get a peace of mind. Do it for 5 minutes, 15, an hour, whatever the case is. I don't know if I would go so far to where I've heard of some meditators can't move their legs for a while because they went numb. So within your own comfort range, maybe you like the numbness, maybe the pain is another tool that you can use to get you through it. Some people will tell the dentist, nope, no Novocaine, I'm not my body, I'm going to get through this. I don't know if I'm willing to do that either. But no matter what, find what fits for you and embrace it for all that it's worth. And are there any questions on self-awareness? I really love to tell stories and I could go on and on forever. But I hope that you guys all grab something from that. And I'll hand out business cards. Through work of a yoga friend of mine, we designed a really good website. And just like all the teachers that have come to me, I got this information for free. And so I want to give it up for free. Of course, you can pay me for my time to sit and talk through it, and it will be quite profound. But in the same token, we live in a day right now that things aren't very cheap, and it's quite expensive to live. And to be healthy, you know, I want to talk about that a little bit too. The health part of our lives. Many will say, you know, what does it matter? Eating healthy, being healthy. Can't quite put anything real to it. And the best saying is that we don't live a healthy life to live a long life. I mean, because that meteorite or drunk driver really doesn't care how healthy you are, do they? No. We live a healthy life just in case it's a long life. It might work out. Boy, I tell you what, it can be rough on you when you can't move your feet very well or whatever. But also own that the implications of life in general, everything ages, therefore everything's moving. And as we age, some things don't age as well as other things do. And where you always do your best is because you know that my best may change over time. It could be I wake up refreshed and my best is going to be a little bit different than when I'm really tired just before bed. Tried to do math late at night. Yeah, I'll remind you that the brain's not working as well unless you're a mathematician or you have your calculator computer right next to you. But all these things tie into self-awareness and your own ability to heal yourself. And I want to thank you all for your time.